Germany is facing charges at the top United Nations Court for allegedly facilitating the commission of genocide against Palestinians in Gaza in coordination with its military and political ally, Israel. Nicaragua will set out its case on Monday, with Germany due to respond the following day. Nicaragua has hauled Germany before the International Court of Justice, ICJ, demanding judges impose emergency measures to stop Berlin from providing Israel with weapons and other assistance. Germany has hit back at the allegations, with Sebastian Fischer, spokesman for the German Federal Foreign Office, telling reporters in advance of the hearings, "We reject the allegations from Nicaragua. Germany has violated neither the Genocide Convention nor international humanitarian law, and we will demonstrate this in full before the International Court of Justice," added Fischer. In a 43-page submission to the court, Nicaragua argues that Germany is in breach of the 1948 UN Genocide Convention, set up in the wake of the Holocaust. Iran has vowed retaliation for an Israeli attack on its consulate in Damascus last Monday. The strike was part of a pattern of escalated Israeli attacks in Syria since the eruption of the Gaza war last October. These attacks have often targeted warehouses, trucks, and airports, and Israel's declared aim for them is degrading Iran's transnational supply network for the Lebanese group Hezbollah. Monday's attack was different, however, in that it struck a diplomatic facility, directly challenging Iran's sovereignty, and killed senior leaders in the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps (IRGC). The most high-profile casualty was Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahidi, a veteran commander who led the IRGC Foreign Operations Wing, the Quds Force, in Syria and Lebanon. How will Iran respond? As it turns out, Tehran has a lot of options, but none of them are very good. Millions of people across North America will get the chance to experience a very special natural event on Monday when a total solar eclipse will be visible from parts of Mexico, the United States, and Canada. The total eclipse, which occurs when the moon completely blocks out the sun, will darken skies for a few minutes, as if it were dawn or dusk, the U.S.'s NASA Space Agency explains. It will be visible from a 185 km wide, 115 mile wide, band that stretches from the western coast of Mexico, through the U.S., and up to Canada's easternmost province of Newfoundland and Labrador, what's known as the Path of Totality. Weather permitting, people along the Path of Totality will see the sun's corona, or outer atmosphere, which is usually obscured by the bright face of the sun, NASA says on its website. The Path of Totality is really where it's at. On Monday, said Anthony Avini, professor emeritus at Colgate University in New York and author of the book, In the Shadow of the Moon, The Science, Magic, and Mystery of Solar Eclipses. So how often do total solar eclipses occur? How long does it typically last? Where and how can you watch safely? Here's everything you need to know. Monday's total eclipse will be visible from parts of Mexico, the US, and Canada. It will enter continental North America in Mazatlan, in the northwestern Mexican state of Sinaloa, at 11:07 a.m. local time, 18:07 Greenwich Mean Time. It will exit the continent on the Atlantic coast of Newfoundland, Canada, at 5:16 p.m. local time, 1946 Greenwich Mean Time. In the U.S., the eclipse will enter the state of Texas at 1:27 p.m. local time, 18:27 Greenwich Mean Time, and exit in Maine at 3:35 p.m. local time, 1935 Greenwich Mean Time. It will last only a few minutes, and the exact time it will be visible depends on where you are within the Path of Totality. For example, in Erie, Pennsylvania, totality starts at 3:16 p.m. local time, 1916 Greenwich Mean Time, and ends at 3:20 p.m., 1920 Greenwich Mean Time. It will reach Buffalo, New York, a few minutes later. There, totality starts at 3:18 p.m. local time, 1918 Greenwich Mean Time, and ends at 3:22 p.m., 1922 Greenwich Mean Time. A partial eclipse also will be visible for about 2 hours on Monday, before and after totality. An engine cover fell off a Boeing plane and hit the plane's wing flap during takeoff in Denver, the United States, officials have said, in the latest safety incident involving the beleaguered aircraft manufacturer. The Houston-bound Boeing 737-800 plane operated by Southwest Airlines returned safely to Denver International Airport after the incident, the Federal Aviation Administration said on Sunday. Southwest Airlines said that passengers headed to Houston were transferred to another aircraft. "We apologize for the inconvenience of their delay, but place our highest priority on ultimate safety for our customers and employees. Our maintenance teams are reviewing the aircraft," the airline said in a statement. Video posted on social media showed the cover blowing open, before ripping off as the aircraft moved down the runway. The Boeing 737-800 aircraft entered service in June 2015, according to FAA records. The co-founder of one of the world's largest tech conferences has returned as chief executive 6 months after stepping down amid a backlash over comments he made criticizing Israel. Paddy Cosgrave said on Monday that being away from the annual Web Summit had given him time to think about the event and why I started it on my own from my bedroom and what I wanted it to be. I took the time to reconnect with old Web Summit friends and I listened to what they had to say and what they wanted from Web Summit, Cosgrave said in a post on X. Some incredible tech advancements, relationships, partnerships, and companies have grown from our events and I want to continue building on this. If anything, I want to supercharge this mission even further to build even stronger communities within Web Summit. Cosgrave said he hoped to make the summit more intimate and community-focused in future. We will seed small communities at our events, and then help those communities thrive long after each event, he said, adding that he was excited for the future with loads more to share. Cosgrave, who co-founded the Web Summit in 2009, did not make any reference to the controversy sparked by his comments about Israel. Slovak nationalist left government candidate Peter Pellegrini has won the country's presidential election, cementing the grip of pro-Russian Prime Minister Robert Fico over the country. Pellegrini had 53.26% of the vote, versus 46.73% for pro-Western opposition candidate Ivan Korkok. Results from 99.66% of voting districts showed on Saturday. Fico, who took power for the fourth time last October, has turned the country's foreign policy to more pro-Russian views and initiated reforms of criminal law and the media, raising concerns over weakening the rule of law. Slovak presidents do not have many executive powers but can veto laws or challenge them in the Constitutional Court. They nominate Constitutional Court judges, who may become important in political strife over the fate of Fico's reforms, which would dramatically ease punishments for corruption. Fico's coalition, which includes a party headed by Pellegrini, halted Slovak official shipments of weapons for Ukraine, and Fico has spoken about what he called Western influence in the war, which only led to Slavic nations killing each other. Poles are set to vote in local elections in the first test for the coalition government of Prime Minister Donald Tusk nearly 4 months since it took power. Voters on Sunday will elect mayors as well as members of municipal councils and provincial assemblies, with nearly 190,000 registered candidates running for local government positions in the Central European nation of 38 million people. Tusk's appointment as Prime Minister in December marked a turning point for the largest country in the European Union's east, drawing a line under 8 years of nationalist rule that set Warsaw at odds with Western allies and putting the nation of 38 million people on a resolutely pro-European course. The broad coalition which Tusk leads won a majority in October's parliamentary elections on promises to roll back judicial reforms implemented by the last government that critics said undermined the independence of the courts while boosting the rights of women and minorities. He has painted victory on Sunday for his Liberal Civic Coalition, KO, the largest grouping in the ruling alliance, as essential if Poland is to avoid sliding back towards nationalist rule under the Law and Justice Party, PiS. South Korea has successfully launched its second military reconnaissance satellite, days after North Korea reiterated its intention to launch multiple spy satellites this year. The satellite entered orbit after its launch on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from the John F. Kennedy Space Center in Florida in the United States on Sunday, South Korea's National Ministry of Defense said. Seoul's military said in a statement that its independent intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance capabilities have been further strengthened. by the successful launch. We will proceed with future satellite launches without a hitch, it added. The Falcon 9 rocket was launched at 23:17 Greenwich Mean Time, and the satellite successfully separated from the launch vehicle 45 minutes later and entered its targeted orbit, according to the statement. It made successful communications with the ground station about 2 hours and 40 minutes after the launch, the ministry added. South Korea, which plans to launch a total of 5 military spy satellites by 2025, is in a race with North Korea to expand its surveillance capabilities amid rising tension on the Korean peninsula. Pyongyang launched its first spy satellite, Malajiang-1, in November last year in its third attempt, while South Korea put its satellite into orbit the following month. North Korea has since said its satellite had transmitted imagery of key sites in the U.S., including the White House and the Pentagon, but has not released any of the photos. Sore and sandblasted but triumphant, runner Russ Cook has reached the northernmost point of Africa, almost a year after he set off from its southern tip on a quest to run the length of the continent. Dozens of supporters gathered on a rocky outcrop on Sunday beside the Mediterranean in northern Tunisia, cheering on the British charity fundraiser, who has run more than 16,000 kilometers, 9,940 miles, across 16 countries in 352 days, and is believed to be the first person to complete the feat in the course of his journey. The 27-year-old endurance athlete from Worthing in southern England crossed jungle and desert, swerved conflict zones, and was delayed by theft, injury, and visa problems. Cook, known on social media by his nickname, Hardest Geezer, set off on April 22, 2023 from Cape Agulhas in South Africa, the continent's southernmost point. He hoped to complete the journey in 240 days, running the equivalent of more than a marathon every day. Rafael Nadal's withdrawal from the Monte Carlo Masters has cast doubt over the 22-times Grand Slam champion's participation at the French Open, but Novak Djokovic said he was still hoping for a final chapter in their storied rivalry. The 37-year-old Spaniard, who has said he expected to retire after the 2024 season, returned to competition in Brisbane in January, after almost a year sidelined with a hip flexor injury, but has not played an ATP event since. As a tennis fan, I want him to play at least one more tournament before he retires, world number 1 Djokovic told Eurosport in an interview published on Saturday. We all know what he's done on clay in his career, particularly Roland Garros. That's his goal, we all know that, he's been saying it. For the sake of all tennis and Roland Garros in particular, we hope that he can play there. It would be great to have another great encounter. Djokovic will begin his quest for a third title in Monte Carlo on Tuesday without coach Goran Ivanišević in his box, after ending his highly successful partnership with the Croatian last month. The Serbian has been working with former doubles world number 1 Nenad Zimanić in recent weeks. We have known each other really well for more than 20 years. He's been always like an older brother to me. A mentor, a friend, who always tried to help me as a person and as a player, Djokovic said. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to catch our daily news updates. We'll be here again tomorrow with more stories you won't want to miss. See you then.